All right, there we go. Hello, Steve.
Hi, how's it going?
Oh, wait. Do I have my mute off? Turn it up. Can you say that again?
I said, hi, how's it going?
Oh, good. It's really quiet for some reason.
Oh, boy.
Sure. It might be let me change my speaker. And for everyone who's here and watching in the background, thanks, guys. When we're done doing the interview, I will bring you guys on for to do Q&A with Steve. Oh, it's because it's going in my headphones. That's why I can still hear you through my headphones that are over there. That's great.
Gotcha. As long as it wasn't anything I was doing.
No, I was pretty sure it was a user error on my part. It was. All right, so we're just gonna, do what we do. Have a conversation.
Sounds good.
So I'm gonna put us on live on Facebook, so it'll take me just a moment, and then we'll get going. Jennifer's got the rock star starting out.
Here,
business
do you
tool.
need headphones or you sure? Okay.
Yeah, okay. Okay. Oh, great. We've updated Windows to bring you a brand new web browser. No, not right now.
Awesome. Perfect time to do that.
That's not part of my plan.
Oh, hold on one second. I got a dog at the vet, so they're calling. So
okay, go ahead and do that, and I'll do this. And everyone else, thanks for hanging out with us while we get set up.
Yes. Hi.
Okay, and you'll do the share party links. All right. Hey guys, I see people starting to roll in. I'm glad you guys are here. Steve just had a call from his vet that he had to take real quick, and I'm in the background getting the Facebook Live prepared. So we will obviously wait to start until Steve comes, since he's the guest of honor, but glad to see everyone here. Alexandra and Dina and Patrick, Lupe, Marlene and Brad, Natasha, Thalia, Timothy Pfizer. I don't know if you go by Tim or Timothy, but I guess we'll find out later. All right. All right, well, you guys just hang out and can watch me looking at my screen as if I'm looking at you. I'm not, promise. And then once you see the magical Steve reappear, we'll get rocking. Oops.
Sounds great. It may be an hour. I got a Zoom I'm doing right now, so. Sounds good. Thanks. Yep. All right. Bye-bye. All right. There. Sorry about that.
No worries. I was just going slow on purpose.
Good.
Because I figured we can't start without the guest of honor. So, all right. Like, here I am interviewing the chair. Okay, so I'm going to go live. Here we go. So all our friends out there on Facebook can participate. All right. Very good. Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, depending on, well, good afternoon, Steve. Good morning to all our West Coast and up to Mountain Standard Time people. I hope everyone's having a great day. So I am really excited today to bring you someone that you've probably heard us mention over and over and over, because he just keeps doing great things. But I've asked Steve Karo to come on today to talk about his really focus on like the first deal that he did. That's always like the biggest cog in the wheel for people to get started with their career. Everybody has this, gosh, I want this so bad. I want to build passive income. And it's this monumental task, this mountain with all these unknowns, all these uncertainties, all this fear. And it's so hard to get past the first one mentally. It's hard. Once you just dive in, it's actually not that hard. But I've asked Steve to come on today and really talk about his whole journey. But Steve, if we can just really focus extra on the first, well, let's say like one or few, because your first one and few kind of happen at the same time. And just putting yourself back, even though it wasn't very long ago, and just walk us through, even before you started, like what was your journey? What were your challenges? What did you struggle with that other people are struggling with? And then like, just the wisdom that you've gained, and yeah, let's just take it from there. And thank you for being here. We're have so much gratitude for you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So yeah, I think as far as when this all started, it was probably a couple of years ago. I wanted to, well, back up, 20 some years ago, I started buying, hunting properties and selling it and making money on that. But that really wasn't part of my motive. My motive was just to go hunting. But I had a nephew who, it's probably been 3 years ago now. He started buying, duplexes and single family homes and renting them. And I always wanted to get involved in that because I'm into, getting multiple streams of income, doing my day job and, I have stocks and the 401k and all IRAs and all that other stuff. But I wanted more, well, you can call it passive, although it's pretty active passive. Yeah. But more passive income. And, that kind of multiplies your streams of income. And so I wanted to get into real estate, and I tried to get in with him, and, the market kind of softened a little bit while he was, getting, I think he has like 10 units or something like that. And he was always going to, I'll find you a deal, don't worry. But I didn't know what I was doing. It wasn't me doing it. It was him looking for them and finding them. And so then I lived in Wisconsin at that time, and last year moved to Florida. And at that time, I decided I'm going to do this one way or another. And I started looking at different online Facebook groups, things like that. And, there's the Sean Terry wholesaling class thing. And I took that and, spent a bunch of money on that and realized, I don't want to wholesale. You're finding all these deals. Why would you let someone else take them? So to me, it made no sense whatsoever. And that's just about that time when, I saw your Facebook, information. I don't know what you called it then. Was it passive income then, or was
Passive income real estate? Yeah, it was the same group name.
Okay, same group name. You've expanded so much, I can't keep track.
True.
But so I joined that Facebook group and you had like the 14-day challenge. I think you call it something different now, but that was like awesome because it kind of walked you through the process in a really short period of time. Not as detailed as what your mastermind does, but it walked you through it. And at that point, I was like, I'm sold. Let's do this. And you were just then creating, your mastermind group at learning how to invest in things. And so, as me and Bobby and Z and can't remember who the first group was, but
it was the three of you were the very first
ones. So that was like October, November. And so you were planning on having this starting, and I don't know if it started January or February, but anyway, started that. But right around that time is when on your Facebook site you posted, hey, this guy's got this single family home that's a rental, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, if it's cash flowing, I'll look into it. I used your calculator and started looking at the numbers, and it's like, well, it cash flows, so let's check it out. I called Bill up, and yeah, that was easy. That one was simple because everything.
I forgot that was your first deal.
It was my first deal.
And he was just my roofer.
Right.
He replaced a roof for me, and he's like, yeah, I have this property for sale. I'm like, well, I have this Facebook group. I'll put it on there and see if anyone's interested.
And so, and he does, he basically rehabs houses and sells them and to investors. And so I got that deal, and that's not a huge money maker, but it cash flows about $250 a month, maybe a little more than that, probably a little more than that. And it wasn't a huge investment. It's guaranteed for a year. He stands behind all his work. Got the inspection done. Anything that was found on the inspection, he fixed. I mean, it was the easiest first purchase I could have dreamed of.
It's like a first child that tricks you into thinking that.
Yes, Yes, it's like that first child that never wakes up at night, although I didn't have that. I had twins that never slept. But
I did not know. Did you know
oh yeah.
that? I did not know that.
Yeah, they're 31 now, but they're probably watching.
That's what I was
But yeah, I didn't sleep for
Oh,
6 months.
right.
So I didn't get spoiled by that. But I got spoiled by my first investment. So then, then we started your mastermind program and learning all the details, which is very specific and very informative. And almost at first too detailed, because I was like, man, this is annoying, because there's a lot of information. But now that I've been in it a while, it's like, holy crap, that was super essential information to know and analyze. And I still go back to those videos and redo them. But you also interviewed on Facebook a realtor from Indianapolis, where I happened to buy this other property. And I was like, yeah, I know a couple realtors there and they're sending me deals, but I called her just to see what her deal was. And she goes, well, actually, I got this one where an investor is buying, 6, but he can't afford the 7th. And his other guy backed out, but it has to close by next Friday, which was 8 days away. And so you have to have the cash up front. Well, fortunately, I did. I had access to that money through an IRA. And so I looked at the deal. I actually got the inspection done like 2 days later. So it got inspected and everything during that time. And I mean, it was a no-brainer. This was a smoking deal. So I jumped on it, closed within a week. That one had a few little hiccups along the way, but nothing. It still was an easy deal. So my first 2 deals were pretty straightforward and easy.
Well, can you back up a little bit and talk about, so your first one was a single family home.
Yep.
When you bought it, was it already rented?
It wasn't when I signed the purchase agreement, but 2 days later it rented. And then, so during the closing period, that's the other nice thing about Bill. He's like, I'll just give you all of April's rent or March or whatever month, February, whatever month it was. You can just keep that rent too. And it didn't close till the end of the month. So I got a full month's rent out of that one also in addition. So yeah, that was a single family. And this other deal was a duplex.
Was it occupied or vacant?
Those are both occupied and rented. And I still have those same people in it to this day. They paid their rent every month.
You like those?
It's been good. So that one was a good one also. That one, I mean, I put gutters up just because, I didn't want water getting in the basement. But generally, that one's a solid brick duplex that really didn't have any problems. Well, I shouldn't say problems. Every inspection shows problems, but no major glaring issues that had to be fixed right away. And the tenants are happy and, they don't want to move. And so it's like, okay, we'll just ride that one out for a while. So my first 2 were rather easy.
No, hold on a second. So I'm gonna keep you in the first 2 for a little bit because I want you to talk about the rest. Because just so everyone knows where this is going, within like 3 months, Steve acquired like 19 units. So he just kept going. He's a crazy man. But I want to back up because it's like the first one or ones that are the big deal for people, like mentally. Mm-hmm. And I'm glad that they were easier or simpler because it gave you traction, it gave you momentum. But for everyone who hasn't been through it yet, it's not simple or easy to them. So I want to extract some stuff on that one. So I'm trying to think between the 2. No, we'll just do one at a time. So for your first one, the one that was a single family home, and it had, there was a tenant ended up being placed in there. Talk through like what was the contract? So that was not a property that was listed on the MLS. There was no realtor. That was a for sale by owner, effectively.
Yep.
Right. So how did it? Because I know people are like how does it even? How would you know what contract to use? And like literally, if you can like go back to like just walking through what those were, it's hard to remember what you didn't know, even though it wasn't that long ago. But try to remember what you didn't know, and what you like every step along the way where you're like, oh, okay, I see how that works. Oh, okay, I see how that works. And I can draw some of those things out. I want to first see what
there's some really interesting things that I had no clue on with rentals. For instance, they don't come with appliances. People bring their own appliances in a rental unit. I never knew that. When I was in college and everything, every place I rented had a stove and a refrigerator,
Well, they normally do.
Yeah, these don't.
Or they typically do, but not always. So, okay.
And Bill's, when he rents them out, he says, no, they never do. People bring their own. Yeah, so
okay.
because I asked him that question, I was like, hey, this one doesn't have, refrigerator, stove. I got to buy all that. Oh, no, renters take care of that. So
Oh,
and my one that I remodeled just now, which I know I'm jumping way ahead now, no appliances in that one. The renters are bringing their own.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, interesting. And I'm still getting, market rent for
Yeah.
these. So I don't know. Maybe it's a weird Indianapolis thing. Maybe it's just a weird, I don't know. I assumed I had to buy the appliances, but I didn't on any of these so far. Now, the
Really?
ones that already had renters in, the appliances are already there. And that's why I didn't even think about it until the next one I bought from Bill, which again, I'm getting ahead of myself. But on the original contract, it just got drawn up. Just because Bill does this a lot, he has a typical contract, and
So
it was
he had
very
the
simple.
contract.
Yeah, he had the contract,
Okay.
and he had the title company, and actually the title company he uses, I try to use frequently because they're super easy, they're investor friendly, and they know what they're doing. They don't
Okay.
miss those little items, which was missed on one of my closings, but that's way in the future here. A whole month later. But yeah, so he drew up the contract, we signed the contract. He never even collected earnest money from me. He said, oh, here's the earnest money thing, but don't worry about it. And I mean, it was the most simple closing and everything. We closed within 15 days, I think. Maybe it was 20. But, I got the inspection done and, all the title work and all that. There was a little glitch in the title work, but that all got straightened out. It was from the previous owner before Bill had bought it. But
So how did that transpire? Because some people will listen to this and go, I didn't even know that it was such a thing as there being a glitch in title. And what the hell is title?
Yeah,
Like even like that.
right.
So
I don't
tell us a
even
little bit about that.
I don't remember if it was a utility thing or there was something on the title that hadn't got closed out from the previous purchase, but
And
it
how did you
had
find
been
that
taken
out?
care of already. It just didn't get filed or whatever because
Oh,
it was only 3 months after he had purchased it. And so it was more of a bookkeeping thing. And to be honest, I don't remember specifically even what it was.
how
And
did you
Bill had to
find out
take
about
care of
it?
Yeah. What's that?
How did you find out about it?
So I found out about it by email from the title company, went to me and Bill, and they're like, hey, we got to get this straightened out. We can't close until X, Y, or Z happens. And Bill's like, I thought we took care of that, when I closed the last time. And they said, no, it's not. And well, you know how that goes.
So he just had to handle it.
Yeah. Which got handled rather easily. He went to the city, but he had to do it and got that whatever piece of paper it was that proved that he had done it or that the previous owner had done it. So whatever it was.
Yeah.
Like
Well, sometimes people get hung up on worrying about things like that. Like, oh, what if the seller won't do it? Well, what if the seller won't do it? What would have happened?
Yeah, we wouldn't have closed.
Exactly. And isn't the seller trying to sell the property?
Right.
So they're incentivized. That's my whole thing is it's not a big deal because the seller is incentivized to handle it.
Yeah.
Because they want to sell. Right. Anyway, that's just, it's
definitely,
and they email you. Okay.
In that situation, I mean, it's definitely nothing I had to worry about because if it didn't, so I always look at these, I don't have to buy these properties. I mean, it's not like I have to, it's not, I don't need a place to stay. I'm not, this is for my future investments and my future. It's not today I need this or else. So if it doesn't work out, I go on to the next one. It's, it's not that big of a deal.
Takes all the pressure off of you.
Yeah, it does.
Like I was telling Battelle the other week because she was like, should I do final invest? I'm like, look, you don't need to buy the property. The seller is the one who needs to sell. So, and you had said the same thing. You're like, look.
The other interesting thing that happens as you're looking at these and putting in offers is you start getting emotionally attached to them, and you can't do that. You have to break away and say, wait a minute, I don't need this. If it doesn't work out, it's going to be okay. Because if you get emotionally attached, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to say, it's okay. We don't have to do that. I'll just get it because I want to get this property. So it's better to stay unemotionally attached, even after you buy it.
True. Was your first, was that house, did you finance it or did you do it cash?
That one I financed.
And what was
Yeah,
that like?
and that was pretty straightforward, just because I do have, a decent, history of, buying houses personally, and my scores are good, and I haven't had any foreclosures or anything like that. So, I talked to a couple different lending companies, and found one I like, and I like the people, and they're easy to work with. And then, you give them all your documents, your W-2s, and and all your bank statements and all that. And so once they have that, and if they are competitive with other lenders, I like staying with them because it's easy. I don't have to give all that
Yeah.
information again to the next guy. But honestly, if all of a sudden interest rates drop and this next company will beat them by an interest point, I'm not going to stick with them just because it's easier to do that. But that went really quite smoothly. There's always some more information they need financing wise, but that's been the case every house I bought. Or there's always 10 more documents you got to get them. But
What was closing like? So you live in Florida.
Yep.
And remind everyone where the property
property's
is.
in Indianapolis, and
So were you in Indianapolis for that whole 2 weeks to make sure everything went just right and make sure you could touch it, feel it, smell it, hug it, love it?
Never been there. Never.
What?
I've driven through Indianapolis a couple times in my life, but I've never been there since I bought all these properties there. We closed in my kitchen at my table.
Oh, like
closing.
logistically, how did you do that?
Yeah. So they have remote closers. It costs like $150 extra to have a remote closing. Wait a minute. This one I might have closed and I didn't have to pay. This one I didn't. This one I went to Wells Fargo because I have a Wells Fargo right near my office. So I actually went to the bank on this one and had them do all the notary and stuff. So the first one I closed at the bank. That's right. After that, I closed at home. It's way easier to do remote closing than to go to a bank. It was terrible at the bank.
Well, true. And the thing that's interesting is sometimes you don't have the option. And I don't know if you've made that connection yet based on how many you've done, but sometimes it's either the lender or sometimes it's even the title company that requires an independent third party control the documents.
Oh, yeah.
I somehow made it years as an investor before I made that connection. That's the only reason I'm bringing it up. Like, oh, it's not. And so sometimes they're like, if you want, we can send you a mobile notary, or you can just get them notarized yourself. And now you have the option. And other ones are like, no, we will send someone. We're not going to leave the documents in your hand because what if you change them? I'm like,
right.
Hey.
And that one totally messed up also because I had to then, I had to fax a bunch of documents after the closing. So I had the big packet. I had to bring it to the bank. I had to sign. I faxed it off. And of course, missed about 3 pages of little initials. And luckily it wasn't any big deal. And it went. So yeah, I decided I'm never doing that again. I'm going to pay the $150, let them send a remote closer.
So much easier.
Way easier.
Yeah.
So anyway, I had to backtrack on that one. So I guess that was a little glitch, but Jesus.
There's just so much more going on than I think you even know, because when you're just in it, you're just like handling stuff.
Right.
But when you haven't ever handled any of this, people have no idea how it worked. Well, you didn't either. Now you're like, I don't even think about it.
Right.
That these things
happen. I'd forgotten all those things that had happened. It seems like it was a year ago, and it was just a few months ago.
This is what, in February or March?
I think it was March.
This year? Jeez, 4 months ago. I love it. Okay. All right. So that's the closing. So, okay, let's talk a little bit about now the duplex actually closed first, right? Oops. You had it under contract second? You closed first?
Yes, that is correct.
And that one, was that cash or was that financed?
That was cash. So that went quick. And so that was through a realtor. And so the realtor already had all the documents ready because it was supposed to be it was someone else that was buying it. And trying to think if I did that in my LLC's name. So I financed all of these then conventionally. So you have to put in your personal name when you finance it. But I might have had this one initially in my LLC's name. But anyway, that doesn't really matter at this stage. But yeah, I signed all the paperwork, and closing then, that one was the one that was in the bank. So that was the one that was in the bank because it was the first one I had ever done.
Got
And
it.
the next one was remote. Okay, so I did have it right on that first one. It's just I closed the other one first. And that was totally uneventful as far as the closing goes, other than the missing 3 signatures on 3 pages. But yeah, and that was cash, so it was quick and easy. I got the cash from, I believe I took that out of a IRA. I can't remember because I've done so many different things with my IRAs and my
I know.
401ks that it was something with with an IRA or a 401k situation. It wasn't a loan though from a 401k. It was.
But your IRA didn't actually buy the property because there's a difference, right? You could borrow against your 401k or IRA or whatever, and it's your money and you do whatever you want with it, or your IRA can buy the property.
Right.
You didn't have your IRA buy this property.
No. It could have, and I actually have done that. I have again 120-acre hunting land that my self-directed IRA owns. But I had money in that account, cash in that account, and I just withdrew it. And then I actually withdrew it from an IRA, paid for the closing, but then financed right away and then paid it back to my other IRA. So
you refinanced it.
So yeah, I refinanced it right away.
You did a cash out.
Right after
cash out
closing.
refi.
Yeah.
How did that work, and like what kind of loan to value? I know, Chris, it might be different now because that was pre-COVID or it was at the very beginning. What did that look like as far as cashing out?
75% loan to value. And it got appraised. Oh, see, now you're trying to tap my memory here.
I know. Normally waiting 4 months isn't too long, but in this case, you've done so many other things, it all blends together. I know.
Right. I wonder, let me see.
Go ahead.
I guess the numbers don't matter that much, but it was 75% loan to value, and pretty much got my cash back, basically.
So, okay.
I think I had to
so
put
they did it based on the appraised value and not the
appraised
price?
value, and I think I had to put 15,000 of my own money into it, something like that. It didn't appraise high enough that I got all my money that I put in out. I could right now though. Values went up, and yeah, it's pretty crazy right now. But I just talked to the lender about half hour ago that has a loan on most of my places, and everything, the value went up on all mine. He's like, well, you could refinance because interest rates are down to 3 now and you're at 5, and
wow,
the values are better, and it's 3 months later. So pretty crazy. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So sorry. So I had to just extract all that. Just at a high level, what for you is different between doing the cash closing that also actually back up one little step. How did you? So you weren't there, nor are you a licensed general contractor. What do you do for work? What's your profession?
I'm a physician assistant.
Okay. So you're not. Okay. Yeah. So you're not a licensed general contractor. You're not a home inspector. How did you get your due diligence done on the physical property since you didn't go there? And even if you were there, that's not your background anyway.
There's 2 things I did, and I've done this numerous times now. First of all, before I put my offer in on the duplex that the realtor had told me about, I did a walkthrough with her. It was FaceTime. So I got to see both sides. Actually got to see the renters too, which that's not that they didn't see me, but I saw them. So you do the walkthrough, and still, yeah, it looks nice, but I'm not a contractor. I'm not an inspector. So then I ordered a home inspection by a certified home inspector. And, that highlights a few different problems, and some of them can be big and some of them aren't. And if nothing's big, to me, it's fine. Let's just go with it. If you could renegotiate with the seller in this situation, it wouldn't have been, I would have just had to back out because they were going to close whether I liked it or not. It was either going to be a deal or not. But there was nothing big that showed up on the inspection. So that was the home inspector part of things. I did that with the single family also. Same home inspector did both. And they give you a written report with pictures and everything else showing, you know, any of the little intricacies, outlet. If there's a little problem in the outlet, they'll show you that and all that. And roofs and basements and foundations. I mean, it's very, very thorough. And so you can, you know, be pretty rest assured that, you know, if they didn't find something wrong, there's not going to be any major issue. Yeah. So,
were you having to take off time during work during this time to handle all this real estate investment and stuff?
no, did my walkthrough during lunch.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, that was, yeah, I mean, yeah, evenings or, you know, in between stuff, you're texting or emailing back and forth, but no, I took no time off work.
How, you know, I know that you were also looking at one point at a deal that was local, right? And I know at the time you were like, you know, I'm starting to think it's easier. I'll let you finish that, but if that deal was, you know, within a half-hour drive, you probably would have gone and been there and seen it, and you probably would have gone and been there several times because you could, and mentally it just seems like, well, yeah, you would. What is
There's two
different
parts
to
to that,
you?
actually. So when I was looking at that deal, I was going to go to the property and I didn't. So I put an offer in as though it was remote. That's like a half hour from my house.
Oh,
I didn't like it that it's so close to my house because you're tempted to go there all the time. I kept thinking, oh, I should drive by there. And I'm feeling guilty that I haven't looked at it personally, even though I saw it. Again, I did a FaceTime thing, walkthrough. But yeah, I didn't like it as much. It was much easier staying more distant. And so had I purchased
yeah.
it, then the headaches are more, you know, you go there and even though, you know, I'd have a property manager, which we haven't talked property manager yet, but we'll have to get to that. I would have had a property manager, but you still, if you go there, all of a sudden the tenant's there and oh, Steve, yeah, you know what? The sink's clogged again. And man, every time I flush the toilet, I get this little leak behind, you know, stuff like that. It's like, you don't want to deal with that.
No,
I don't anyway.
either.
So that's why I kind of like the remote investing idea. It almost makes it easier. And so I have a pretty darn good team in Indianapolis right now because I've got multiple properties there. And I have found the best property manager ever. I mean, I actually have two right now, but the one I'm going to transfer the other two over to this new one. But unbelievable the stuff he helps me out with, and I don't have to be there. He knows way better than I do how to handle these situations. I'm not a plumber.
Right.
So,
So I'm from a time standpoint, because if you were there and you were wanting to go take a look at it, would you really be able to just on your lunch break, if that, it just would become more time consuming? I think that one of the points I want to make to everyone just as a mental thing is like what Steve has done and is doing is being just the CEO and really just directing, and the COO, directing the people, the professionals who do that thing to go do it. Or he's not doing it. He's not spending the time to do it. He just has to be the brain. He's got to be the brain behind everything, the one that knows what's happening, knows how to pull it all together and direct people and make sure it's being done. But he doesn't have to physically go do it, which allows him to do his full-time job and to do his career and still manage this portfolio and continue working on building it. So that was just one thing I wanted to point out, because that's a very foreign concept. For you, that's your whole investing at this point. But for a lot of people, if they learn the traditional way, it's you of course go see it. And you're of course there all the time, and it just sucks the energy out of you because it's so time consuming. Right. And unnecessary. Yep. But okay. Anyway, so all right, so now we'll go ahead and fast forward. Now I'll let you just talk about whatever the other was. I just really wanted to pull out all those things because they seem so easy to you now. But at the time, every single thing was a new thing. And none of it was a big deal. You just handled it at the time. All right. So now fast forward, like walk us through the rest of your journey now.
There's so many topics to tap
I know.
into. So let's talk about this most recent one that I've rehabbed because it's part of a group, but I'll get back to that as well. But what's cool is, so I bought one property, which I again paid cash for this one as well. Actually, never mind. This whole COVID thing opened up a whole another amount of money that I could take out of my IRA, and that's tapped into that. And I bought this one cash as well, and the one side was vacant and needed rehab. The other side had a tenant, and this is a duplex also, obviously, since I mentioned two sides. But what's cool is, so the guy that I bought my very first house from, does rehab of houses. So he's a contractor. He's a roofer. That's his main, I shouldn't say main source of income, because he probably makes more on flips than he does on his roofing company. But anyway, but he's got this crew that does the rehabs, for him. He's the general contractor. So he actually rehabbed my most recent duplex that I got. And well, I did buy another house from him as well, but we can go back to that in a minute as well. But the cool thing is, the way this whole network thing works is every person you meet along the way, you meet 3 other people, or they can do X, Y, or Z for you as well. And it actually is their expertise. And you met them because you were looking for, I don't know, an insurance thing or something, but yet they actually do property management. I mean, it's so intertwined, and the people you meet and the team you build it's essential, but it's so interesting how it forms. And now he's going to rehab the other side, because now the one side's done and it's rented already. And, that only took a couple weeks, and it got rented within like 3 days. And so I got really lucky not lucky. It went well. And I knew the area, and I knew it was going to rent, but anyway, he did my rehab, and he's going to rehab the other side. I've also got one of the realtors who is sending me deals, has 2 contractors that he used, and I've actually talked to them. I just don't have a rehab right now to get them to do a bid on, but fantastic contractors, and I'll expand on that once I get them signed up. It's pretty cool. Anyway, so let's step back a little bit. So after those first 2 deals, then Natasha, who's in our mastermind, has this, she wanted to buy this one property, and all of a sudden there's 6 more attached to it or something. I can't even remember how many there were.
But it was just one that was listed on the MLS,
but it was
right? And
one that was listed on the MLS, but this guy had, 6 other properties or 5 other properties, or however many there were. And she's, asked, anybody else want to, go in on this? Because, I can't do all these properties. And I was like, yeah, sure. I'll look at 1 or 2 of them. And I was looking at them. So me and Bobby, who's also was in the mastermind, he was one of the first ones as well. He's like, yeah, me too. And so we're in this thing with the 3 of us and this one seller. Well, this happens and that happens, and all of a sudden everybody's backing out, and I'm like, okay, I'll take that one. Okay, I'll take that one. Pretty soon I'm buying all 6. and one of them is this rehab that I was talking about. And yeah, so one of them I paid cash for, the other 5 I financed. And in that same time, the contractor, the guy I bought the first house from, had another one for sale, which was even a better deal than the first one. I said, okay, I'll buy that. So I bought 7 properties all at once, closed on, or maybe it was 6. No, it was 6 all at once, because I didn't want one of the single families. So I closed on 6 houses all at once, 5 of them from the same deal. And one of those was cash, and then one was from Bill's deal, but I closed all on the same day. That was hectic.
Walk us through that one, because I know that was a really, that was tough. If it was one at a time, probably none of them would have been any big deal, but it was a lot to do at once.
Have you ever?
I tried to put you on restriction.
Yeah, you did. You put me on restrictions.
I was unsuccessful.
I actually bought another one while I was on restriction, but. But have you ever closed 6 at once? That's a lot of papers to sign.
It is a lot. We have done 12 more than that, and I don't recommend it if you're new. It's a lot.
And 5 of them So one was cash. Cash is always easy. It's this little tiny packet and and you're done.
Yeah.
That was simple. But 5 of them were loans and they were all separate. It wasn't like it was a
Yeah.
package loan deal. And so each and every one of them had a packet this thick that you had to go through. But it was with a closer who knew what they were doing and they didn't let you miss anything. And, so it went as well as can be expected with closing 6 properties. But again, it was with the same lender. So all my stuff, I didn't have to resubmit my W-2s. They had to verify that I was still employed because this was during COVID, actually.
That you were gainfully employed.
Yeah, gainfully employed, right.
You had the ultimate job security.
Right. Yeah, so wearing masks at closing. Anyway, that's a separate issue.
Did you at least take some pictures?
Of what?
Of like closing like with a mask on. I didn't even think of this at the time.
I didn't. I don't think of those.
That's okay. I think you can recreate it because if this is part of your journey at this point, you need to have that, like a pen, a mask. Someone can fake pretending that they're the notary, for posterity's sake.
Because this is 2020.
2020 is going down in the books as it's cool. Yeah, it's a unique year.
So yeah, I don't recommend closing 6 all at once. It sounded good at the time, but man, that was so that got complicated also. Oh my God,
I'm cracking up. This is so funny.
So that was supposed to be at my house. I can't remember why the dates changed. Something had to change. I don't know if it was the seller. There was a date that had to be precise. And so it couldn't work at my house. And so I said, fine, come to the clinic. And so the closer came
I didn't know that.
to my clinic. I didn't even tell anybody at the clinic this until they got there. So I probably shouldn't do that. But so they're in our conference room with all these files laid out. And luckily, so this was the beginning of COVID, and we basically told patients, probably not a good idea to come in if you're not, sick. Let's just see how this thing plays out. So we weren't busy at the time, fortunately. And so I said, well, come around the noon hour, but also it hasn't been busy. So, if I have to see a patient here or there, I'll do it in between. And so I did. I saw a couple patients in between signing.
I have no idea where the whole notary ended up.
It was crazy. The notary was just like, this is awesome. I've never seen anything like this. And so,
cool.
It was crazy. It was crazy. But anyway, probably shouldn't have said that, but oh well.
You know what, though? That's the real. And I think it's one of the things that everyone likes about it. So it's like, we'll just, good, bad, ugly, we'll just tell it like it is.
Well, you got to be flexible. Yeah,
true.
That's the other thing. Holy crap. If you're not flexible, forget it. Don't even do real estate because every deal is different. Every situation's different. Every building's different. There's no 2 deals that are the same. It's impossible. Even the 2 deals I did with Bill, they were remodels. They're all insured. He's going to do all the work. If anything comes up in the next year, blah, 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 that's all the same. But the buildings are different. The renters are different. The price is different. There's nothing the same.
So when I say that, really, I think I said this yesterday in the mastermind call, yes, we're real estate investors, but what we really are, truly, at the underlying foundation of it is we're just highly paid problem solvers.
Yeah, no
It's
kidding.
just a never-ending string of problems not in a bad way, just challenges, issues, things that you have to solve and get creative and work through.
Yep.
And if you can't, and if you're not flexible, that's a good way to put it, you just won't make it because you'll go insane, which I did in the beginning because I didn't know that. No one ever said, hey, just so you know, it's all it is just challenge after challenge after challenge. But boy, there's a big payday at the end if you're willing to engage in those challenges. And then eventually they're no big deal anymore.
Yeah.
So I remember that week when we had our mastermind call and you were just like, oh my God, there's just so much going on. What were some of the things that were just coming up for you since that closing all those deals at once? Again, it's probably no individual deal. It was just so much at once. What were some of the things that were coming up and how were you dealing with it in between work?
Yeah, right. Well, it's always those little documents they need, which are so petty and so stupid, but it has to check their little box. So they've got this. So I can't even remember specific things they needed, but it's just like, are you kidding me? We've done this 3 times previous, and no, we need that piece of paper and oh, your 401k this, and it's, yeah. So it's just those little nuisance documents that you need to come up with that are the hassle. Yeah.
Is there anything that you did from an organization standpoint, or that you would do in hindsight? Sometimes the organization stuff comes in hindsight, to make the process easier.
So the package deal that I got had a bunch of nuances that happened along the way, and I just said, this person fell out, this person fell out. Well, they fell out for a reason. And there was inspection issues, and there was, all this stuff. And there's certain things that there was some foundation issues with a couple of them. Well, I got the price way down because of that. And I got a foundation guy out there, and he said, well, here's what it would cost. And so it wasn't like the building's going to collapse tomorrow. It just, you need to do the, I don't know what it's called, tucking something.
Tuck pointing.
Yeah, that's it.
It's a brick thing.
And so it just needed, some of that. It's, maybe $4,000, but the price got, brought down like $10,000 because of the foundation issues on 2 of these. And part of the problem is it needs gutters, and you need to get the rain not going into the basement. And so, it doesn't wash away all your mortar and all that stuff. So, fixing some of those simple things were needed, but those inspections are what caused people to kind of back out. And then it was during COVID, and Bobby backed out because they wouldn't let an inspector go in to one of the units. And he's like, well, I'm not going to do it if we can't be inspected. But we'd already had 2 contractors in there. And so I already knew what the specifics were with that, even though I don't recommend not getting an inspection. You always taught us that. But in this situation, I was like, I'll take the risk because the price is low enough that, even if there is some major issue that pops up, it's still going to value. Yeah. So anyway, those were the reasons people were backing out, but that was happening all along in that whole thing. So all of a sudden this, we have all this time, turned into, oh my God, we got to close soon, and this has to happen. And now we're past the inspection period anyway. And we already crossed this line, and, a whole bunch of stuff happened that it was just a mess. But it happened because Natasha was trying to do all the due diligence stuff ahead of time, and was running into all these little things that were happening. And so I just kind of came in and said, fine, let's just do this. And I did it. But I don't know. Maybe I'm a little too risky at times, but.
You're definitely a shark. You've got the shark personality, which is the go-getter, make it happen. And I would have been like, no, if they didn't get an inspection, you can't buy that unit. But here's the thing that I want to acknowledge. I want to make sure everyone is clear. Don't condone it. However, the thing that I'll acknowledge, Steve, is that you weren't flippant about it. You recognized, I know that it has not been inspected, but here's what we have done. And I still recognize that there's risk. And this is, I don't know if you quantified it, but at least to some degree, I think that, I've quantified the risk to X, and I'm willing to take that risk. At least it was an informed decision. It wasn't like, oh, no inspection. Oh, well, it was like, well, okay, I can't have this, but I do have this. And if I miss it, this is how much, and I'm okay with that if that happens.
Yeah, and it was inspected. Like I said, I got foundation people in to look at it, and I got, so it's not like it wasn't inspected, but it wasn't a house inspector who would highlight all the little things. It was a contractor and a specialist who did that. And the nice thing about that is you get bids from them, but it really didn't cost you anything, because they're just giving you a bid. But again, I would never recommend not getting inspections. Even if you have a contractor that you trust and know that he looks at details, I still think the inspection gives you that extra blanket of security, and I would never recommend not getting an inspection. It's just not worth it. Even if the seller says, no, you can't get an inspection because I'm not going to change anything anyway, and say, I don't care, I just want to know what's wrong with it. get the inspection. You know, if it's going to cost you $300, $400 out of your pocket, and the deal doesn't go through, it could save you 20,000, 50,000, whatever. So
Yeah, I've made that mistake twice, even knowing you should never ever skip it. I was like, I bought a house that we still own as a rental now, that we totally renovated. But when I bought it, it was literally sticks. There's nothing to it. What would I need an inspection for? There's nothing to inspect. There wasn't even floors. There's nothing. Well, lesson learned. Even though I know better, you always get an inspect, because the contractors, they're there to talk about a cost to cure. They're not testing every plug. They're not opening every faucet, but the home inspectors do, which is why we would pay to have that, anyway. But so you made an informed decision based on that. It's just not one that you would probably, hopefully.
No, I don't plan on doing that.
No
again.
Different. All right. So what would you say? Oh gosh, I literally could interview you for hours. I can't believe it's already 10:50. I'm sorry. Okay. So I want to be able to open it up for people to ask you questions.
Sure.
Before I do that, Steve, if there is, when someone is brand new, and I'm not even talking about our training or mastermind, I'm not even talking about that. Just as a human being who's getting started, what would you say to other people who, like, they're clearly interested, that's why they're even in our group, to encourage them to cross over it and to go for it and to not stay stuck in fear or uncertainty?
Well, I mean, you have to have some education to start with. So you need to have some sort of mentorship. But again, it doesn't have to be paid mentorship. There's a lot of free data. You guys give a ton of free stuff on your Facebook site. So at least know that. You got to come into it knowing something, or you're going to totally, trip. But, you have to be willing to take some risk. And again, it's calculated risk. It's risk with, the backup of an inspector, the backup of, whatever else you've got going on that specific deal. But go for it. Honestly, you sign a contract saying, I'm going to purchase this property, but I have this 10-day or 15-day inspection period. During that inspection period is when your inspector's there, and you can back out of it. If all of a sudden you're like, oh crap, the rent isn't $850, it's $750, and now I need to repair a roof or whatever. And it's like, so it needs roof repair, and you weren't planning on that. That's why you get the inspection, and that's why you have that period of time. It's like that safety net to say, oh, wait a minute, I can't do this deal because it'll cost too much. Or the seller then says, well, that's okay, I'll fix the roof for you, put a new roof on, and blah, blah, blah. Or I'll drop the price X amount because of that, which happened with the foundation stuff on 2 of the buildings I bought. So don't be that fearful to take the leap. And also making offers so they don't accept your offer. Oh, well, go on to the next one. Once you've made an offer, you've started that process, and at least you've educated yourself on how that process progresses. And if they say no, you're like, oh, okay, phew. I wasn't sure about it anyway, or whatever, and once they accept the offer, you're like, oh my God, now what do I do? But yeah, there's plenty of people to help you through the process also.
That's awesome. So Steve, what's next? So you've basically done all these deals on your own, funded them on your own, through, financing in your own resources. Yeah. And now you're getting ready to transition, although I have a feeling you'll still be picking up these. You're getting ready to transition to something new that's really going to require something new of you. Can you talk to us about kind of what's next in your journey?
So I was super fortunate that I had the ability to tap into my IRAs. I understand most people don't have that ability, and in the end, with all these that I bought, it's a couple $100,000 just in the down payments. So I get it. People don't have that kind of money. I was lucky I was able to tap into that. I didn't know I had that ability when I first started this either. I had probably $50,000 to play with initially. So I was really fortunate during the whole process of this to be able to put the down payments down and things like that. But you don't have to. there's a couple ways, like I've got a couple private lenders now that if I need to, which I haven't had to yet, but I can tap into them. And if I have a rehab property, they'll finance it for me, so I can have cash at, closing, and then finance once I do the rehab. So there's those opportunities out there. There is, getting a partner to go along with you. They can be the cash investor and you can be the mastermind and do all the this stuff I've been through. And there's plenty of people that want to invest, and there's money to be made for them too. I mean, you can offer them whatever, there's a number of ways to go through this, and that's a whole different topic within itself. But now I'm getting into, I want to go after apartments, which is my ultimate goal anyway. Actually, I was just looking at my goal list, and I had a 20-unit apartment goal for the end of this year, and I had 100-unit by the end of next year. So I got some work to do here in the next year. But with that, I don't have, $400,000 for a down payment on a $1 million, $2 million apartment complex. So I'm going to have to bring people in with me. And I already have, some friends and family who have seen what I've been doing and are like, yeah, let's make me some money as well. And so I know they'll, be wanting to get in on some of those. But yeah, finding other people that want to invest is kind of the way I'm going with the whole apartment thing. And I plan on first doing a value add one. That's kind of my ultimate goal. I was actually just talking to a broker about an hour ago on that as well. And he just sent me 3 off-market pretty cool things. Anyway, we'll talk more about that later. But that's my next step. I love duplexes, quads, tris. I'm going to stick with that too for cash flow. But the apartment thing is probably, doing the value add is going to be more a money maker thing, and, probably sell it in 3 to 5 years, something like that. And cash out and get everybody their money that invests with me. And then just keep building on that and go higher and higher. I'm kind of hyper. I don't know if you've caught on to that, but
I call it enthusiastic.
What's that?
I call it enthusiastic.
Okay, that works. Yeah. Yeah, and I love it. I like doing this. And I was just talking to my wife last night, and she's like, God, you just never stop. And I was like, yeah, but you can tell I love this. And she's like, yeah, if you didn't, I would tell you to stop doing this. But, she sees the enthusiasm. I mean, if it's making you happy, how can you not do it, right?
True. Yeah, obviously I'm a big fan. All right. So Steve, do you have a few minutes for questions? All right. I'm going to bring up, so if you're like, hey, I got to bounce, just do that. Otherwise I'll just bring them over.
I don't think I have anything all afternoon. So
all right.
I'll just keep talking.
All right. So everybody else who's on here right now, I'm going to bring you guys over as panelists. So please make sure you turn your video on. And if you have a question, just go ahead and unmute and, ask the question to Steve, and I'll just be here facilitating it. Let's see here. And Steve, I really appreciate how much you're willing to share with everyone, because you're inspirational, and that I know when I was new, I really needed to see someone else who was new. Someone who had been doing it for 15 years wasn't that useful to me, other than the knowledge they gave me,
right?
But instruction. Right. But I was like, of course you can do it. But people who were just a little bit ahead of me, I was like, oh, tell me how it works. Anyway, all right. Does anyone have any questions for Steve while we have him live here with us now? Or is everyone here just watching and listening?
I rambled on so much that there's no questions left, right?
So much good stuff is extracted. All right. No questions? Okay, go for it, Patrick.
And I'm assuming, Stacy, y'all have, I noticed today your YouTube channel, there's so much information, and probably my questions might already be answered somewhere, but I'd need 3 years to watch it all, I think.
You do.
I'm curious around the financing options, and Steve, you had mentioned using IRA money. I don't have a whole lot of IRA money, but say more about what it sounded like there was a distinction between self-directed IRA versus somehow leveraging IRA money.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm missing something.
Well, there's a few different ways. Okay, so first of all, with a 401k, you can't use that money unless you take a loan out on a 401k. So that, that's one thing if you have 401ks. IRAs, you have to have a self-directed IRA, which is a third party that you still have say in what your money's doing, but there has to be a arm length distance between you and your money, supposedly. So anyway, I have acreage that my self-directed IRA owns. So it's owned in equity trust, SBA, not SBA.
FBO.
Yeah, that's it. FBO, Steve Karo. And so technically, I personally don't own it. My IRA owns it. But, if I sell it to make money on it tomorrow, it's still my IRA money that I can then take out once I'm over 59 and a half without penalty. You still get taxed on it. But right now, the money that I've accessed was out of my IRA so normally if you're transferring money from 401k or one IRA to another IRA, you have 60 days to transfer that money. So you could actually use your money for that 60 days until it gets there without being penalized or taxed on it. Well, since COVID, they extended that to 2.5 years. And so that's what I tapped into. I stole 55 grand from my wife and her IRA. So technically, I suppose she owns this other one that I bought. And I took close to 100,000 out of my IRA to invest. And I just have to get it back into a IRA of some sort or 401k within 2.5 years. So it's the same rules apply to that 60-day period, but it's 2.5 years now because of the COVID thing. They want people to be able to live and invest and spend money on things that they need. So that's why they created that new rule. But that ends, I think, at the end of this year is what they said. If you don't take it out before the end of the year, then you can't do it. And there's specifics behind it. I would talk to someone who's an expert at it before you actually do it. But it's so simple. Whoever's got your IRA funds, they'll know about it, I would think. So that's the IRA question. So you can have your self-directed IRA own a piece of property. At that point, if you're renting it, the rent has to go back to your self-directed IRA. You can't have that money in your personal income. Or you can now use your money for that. Well, it used to be 60 days. Now it's 2.5 years. You can use that money and then pay back your IRA.
All right. Any other questions? Mark Presswood, welcome. Lovely to see you.
Man, you're a rock star, Steve. It sounds like you're really enjoying what you're doing, man. I've been doing this for a while too. I'm here at the factory doing my thing as well. And I got 3 that I'm putting under contract as well over there in South Carolina, 3,000 miles away.
Awesome.
Stacy, you're a rock star. Awesome group. Very awesome group, man. It's a blast being here. Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. It is a blast being here. Yeah.
So Steve, I have a question for you.
Yep.
On the IRA, so because of the COVID, they're giving you 2.5 years up until the end of this year to use that, right?
Yes.
2.5 years to replace it.
They said 3, but 3 from the beginning of this year. So it's actually 2.5 now, but yes.
Okay, so what's the normal time range like pre-COVID?
60 days.
And and so the difference is you either are, if you purchase with the IRA as the owner, as the purchaser, the buyer,
Yep.
then that, explain that to me. The difference between if you use the IRA to be the buyer or if you take a loan against it. Both ways, the money goes back into the IRA?
Yeah. So Yeah, I guess technically you could say you're taking a loan against it because you're pulling the money out and you got to put it back in.
Right.
It's not technically a loan. It's a transfer of funds, and they're letting you take 2.5 years to transfer it. It's a really slow walk to the bank.
So the buyer isn't your IRA, like you aren't
Right.
coming up with an
Right.
LLC or an IRA. It is you.
Yes.
Okay.
And
This will
you
be
are-
good information while I'm wholesaling to explain to
Yeah.
potential
Yes.
buyers that aren't in the business.
Yes.
So that's
And-
why I'm trying to learn all this and refresh from what I knew a few years back.
And if you don't replace it or put it in another IRA, and by the way, when you do that, you got to make sure you're saying this is a rollover. It's actually a rollover. This is a rollover, and they'll give you a 55. I can't remember the number of the form, but anyway, it's saying it's a rollover. So for tax purposes, if you get audited, you say, "Oh no, that was a rollover. It just took me 2.5 years to roll it over," and because of COVID. And as long as you say because of COVID, you're good. But if you have your self-directed IRA own it, then that's a whole different ball of wax, and there is no payback. I mean, that you can just let it sit out there forever. It doesn't.
You have to have a pretty big IRA to be able to do that, right?
For a self-directed IRA,
Yeah.
it's dollar per dollar. So, like the property I bought in Wisconsin is a 120-acre hunting property, and I think I spent 300 and some thousand. So that's what I had in that IRA, and I just used it for that. That was my self-directed IRA. Equity is managing that, and
So
property.
you were your own lender, basically.
Yeah, you're your own lender.
Okay. Okay.
There's also a, now this wouldn't be for land, but for rental property, there's a bank, I think it's called North American Savings Bank out of Kansas City, and they actually will lend to an IRA. They'll do, well, I haven't checked with them recently to see if anything changed, but pre-COVID at least, they would loan 50% loan to value. So if Steve was buying a property for $100,000 and he only wanted to use 50% of his IRA, he could do that and he could get a loan. The loan is considered non-recourse, which means he does not sign a personal guarantee. If he defaulted, then the bank could take back the property, but couldn't come after him personally. So that is actually a way for you to further leverage, if you're buying cash flow properties, to further leverage a self-directed IRA.
I'm actually doing that. I've actually got a loan guy who, during COVID, it kind of went south for a while, and he said, "Don't do it right now. The rates will be way too high. It won't work." But I just talked to him last week, and he's like, "Oh yeah, it's coming back. Wait another couple weeks, and it'll be good." But because I'm going to put a house on that property as well. Well, a hunting cabin or whatever you want to call it, but it's a house. And I don't have the money in my IRA to do it, so I'm going to get a loan from them, and they'll do it. They use the property as the guarantee basically, but it's a non-recourse, so they can't come after you personally. And a lot of that gets technical. I mean, you do want to talk to a lawyer or someone who's knowledgeable about this. Don't take my word on all this.
Yeah, and Dina, there's a couple of, you're in the mastermind, Dina, so I'll just, this information I'm about to give you is also available publicly on YouTube. It'll just probably be a little bit more digging to find out. But Dina, in the course, in the passive income course that you have access to, if you go down to the financing section, I did an interview both with Karen Hall from UDirect IRA. She's the owner of a company that does self-directed IRAs. She's the one who did Mike and Shelley's, who you know.
Okay.
And then there's also an interview with Corey Posgay from Anderson Advisors, who's going to be coming on the mastermind, not in 2 weeks, but in 3 weeks. But anyway, there's interviews from both of them they're super informative and detail oriented. I put them in the course just so they're easy. They're in the finance section. But for everyone else out there, if you're not in our mastermind yet, hopefully I will still see you at some point. We do have those videos available. You could probably even comment on the most recent welcome post, and Gazel will send them to you. But if you have any interest in using your IRA or a 401k, or just wanting to understand how to use an retirement accounts for investing, Corey's was timely because it was after COVID hit, and he specifically was addressing what was different in there from an education standpoint. So you could watch that just to get a better understanding of that. I know
Okay. Yeah, that'll help, because I get a lot of people that I can approach, but they've got all these questions about everything. They want all the guarantees and the knowledge to become a buyer. So because this
You can
will
always
start as
always
a-
send them the link. Let them get educated themselves. Don't feel like you have to be the authority. You can just say, well, here's how I learned it, and it's especially with the one that's on YouTube. It's free and it's out there. You can
Okay.
use that to help educate your potential buyers.
Okay, and I can ask Gazelle for those links.
Gazel, yes, I
Gazel,
used to.
sorry.
Yeah, looks like Gazelle, but it's Gazel. It's like Hazel with a G.
Okay.
Gazelle sounds cooler.
I know. At first I kept going Gazelle. It's not Gazelle. It's Gazel. Gazel. So I understand. But yeah, if you go to the welcome post specifically, that would be a great place to go, and let her know that you're looking for that, and she can give you the link. Well, you don't even need to, Dina. You're in the mastermind. You could just go to the course. Just go to the financing section. It's in there.
Course, in the financing.
Yeah. For people who aren't in it.
I can bookmark it. Yeah. Yeah, this is a whole new twist for me, and I'm trying to keep my mind in the wholesaling arena and learn the ins and outs of how to do that until I'm ready to jump back into investing myself.
Sure. Awesome. All right. Do we have any other questions for Steve while we have him here?
I got one. Who is your lender? Who's the one that's getting you all these loans at the same time?
So what's interesting, so your first loan you do, they take everything into consideration, all your personal stuff. But if it's a rental, and it's a conventional loan that I got, by the way, with most of these, and it's Leader One is the name of the company. I think they're based out of Kansas City, but the guy I always talk to is in Indianapolis. But after the first one, as long as it's a rental property and it's making money, it doesn't count against your personal loan to debt ratio thing. So yes, your first one, they take that into consideration, but after that, it's not like it adds to your loan to debt ratio as long as it's making money. So they got to see your rent rolls and all that, make sure that it is making money. But yeah, it's pretty easy. Well, I shouldn't say easy. Pretty straightforward.
So, but they're all individual per unit.
Yep.
Not a big portfolio package then, right?
At this point, I next one I buy will. I think I have one more available in the conventional realm, and then after that, I'm going to have to do portfolio or something like that. I'll have to transition from there because you're only allowed 9 plus your residence. If you have a loan on your residence. So yeah. So right now, yes, they're all conventional loans, but I've kind of reached the end of that luxury. Although I was looking at numbers, the interest rates on commercial loans are very similar. So it's really not that different. So.
I was going to say, you could probably wrap the whole thing once you have the T12, the whole portfolio, and just cash refi the whole thing.
Exactly. And honestly, right now, rates dropped. They're more than a point less than I paid.
Yeah.
And that was right pre-COVID is when I got all my loan guarantees. And then they went high, in the middle of COVID, but now I don't know why everyone's buying right now. It's crazy. But loan rates went way down. So I think they're in the 3s for a home mortgage, aren't they? Anybody looked? Yeah.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah. So
awesome. All right. Any other questions for Steve? All right. Well, we will continue to. Steve is in our mastermind and is now gone on to be in our apartment mastermind also. So Steve's someone that I will probably bring on a few times a year because he continues to grow and learn. And again, I found that you guys seem to get a lot of value out of connecting with people who are just a little bit further ahead of you. One, just to show that you can do it. The belief factor that it can be done because you're seeing someone that you can relate to do it. So, and Steve, I love how willing you are to share the lessons, the good, the bad, the ugly, all of it. And I really thank you for being a part of our mastermind and just for being willing to do this. So thank you for that. We're grateful for you. Awesome. Okay, well, we'll let everyone go. Thank you guys for spending this time with us today. And Steve, once again, thank you. And everyone have a great week. We'll be live at 5 p.m. Pacific tonight. So if you want to hop on, we'll see you then. And have a good one, guys.
Guys.
Bye.
Bye.